So the Brosen recently has decided they're going to go every other week. So they're going to have releases bi-weekly on Sundays. And so, of course, this week is one of those weeks. Today, we're going to be looking at a couple of excerpts from their podcast this week with Luke Dimian, who, of course, plays Judas in The Chosen. Luke, to me, is one of the most interesting actors because he's so different than his character that he plays. At one moment he's playing this super serious Judas character, and then the next moment he's just joking around, having fun, just totally different person, which is partially how you know that he's such a great actor and how he's good at what he does. But this episode, I definitely encourage you to go check it out. There's a lot of really great moments within this podcast overall, but let's check out a few moments here. Let's jump in.
Again, I appreciate that you enjoyed the performance so much, Mitch, and I'm really trying to put my all into it and make sure that this is as great as a Judas that it can be for the people watching, for the scripts that are given to me, and to see if I can really make him this complicated, multi-dimensional guy that you can't hate because you just feel bad for, that it's just this confusing feeling, because that's how I feel about Judas. Whenever I was a kid and I read about it, I was just like, this feels kind of sad and just off. I don't hate him. I feel like he got a bad hand.
So this is interesting. Luke has talked about this several times in the past. Of course, playing Judas is one of the most important things in The Chosen. Not only the writing of the script of playing Judas, but also the character himself. How does he act? What are his mannerisms? What makes him likable? Because if the actor himself was an unlikable person, it would defeat the purpose of how it's written, at least for The Chosen, right? And so Judas overall, he was a follower of Jesus. So it makes a lot of sense that we would have this person that follows along and just slowly kind of walks a different path over time, which is what we're seeing in The Chosen now. Judas, since the very beginning, has not really listened to Jesus in his entirety. He's just kind of taken what he's liked and done a few things here and there and followed the ministry as best he can. But, there may be these little pieces that he kind of does on his own. And so we're seeing more and more of that play out in The Chosen overall, especially going into season 5 and season 6. Of course, these are going to be major breaking points for Judas overall. So I love to hear Luke's thoughts about this.
He was just...
So do you, as you get closer to the end of the show and you know where Judas is going and you know what decision he's going to make, is there a part of you that dreads that because you're in a way saying goodbye to the character, you're making the hard choice, you've finally gotten to the end point that you're working towards? Is there a little bit of dread in that? Oh man, I have to, all these people that I've been friends with and castmates with for so long, I have to now in the show betray them and then in the end, die.
Weirdly enough, no.
This is such a Luke response right here.
I'm kind of excited for it. I'm really excited to betray Jesus.
Yeah. I'm really excited to betray Jesus. I love that line.
Jesus, guys, I'm super excited. Mostly because that's the good stuff. That's where I think that's the stuff that I'm really excited about. The build-up is fine and everything is good, but I really want to get to the meat of this stuff of the betrayal, because I think that's where the complication of his character really rises. Because the way that he's based, he's not at heart a villain, but he makes a bad decision, and then his true heart and his true feelings has to deal with that.
Yeah, so I think I agree with Luke to a point here, right? For Judas, in and of himself, he is not a villain in the sense of he set out from the beginning to have this very evil motive and walk out and betray Jesus from the very beginning. That's not what he did. However, it was more than just one decision, right? It wasn't just the betrayal that Judas made a bad decision in. It's all the things leading up to it. So, for example, this is one of the things that I think is written best in season 4 of The Chosen, where we see Judas going over these things over and over again, where Jesus is telling him, hey, you should probably learn this lesson. Hey, you should probably do this thing. Hey, we're going to go to Jerusalem tomorrow, and I really need you to pay attention to my message. I want you to pay attention. And then what happens, right? We see him go to Jerusalem the next day, and then Judas doesn't pay attention to the message. In fact, he gets distracted by everything else around him, by the Pharisees and the Sadducees, by the people in the market, by the stoning that happens later on. So we get to see Judas kind of walk through this, and completely disregard what Jesus has told him to do in the first place. It's just pure disobedience. And so because of that, Judas begins walking this path away from Jesus and away from the other apostles. And then he finally gets to the point of the betrayal. The betrayal is the last in a long, long, long line of bad decisions overall, for sure.
So that's going to be such a fun dichotomy to play in the moment that would lead to a suicide. Because a guy who's chill with his decision of betrayal, it doesn't just like automatically go, oh, you know what, it would be a great way to wrap this up? Dying. I think I'm gonna go die real quick.
Dying.
No, like
That's what I think is so interesting.
Because
It's this opposite side where like Jesus is gonna die and Judas is gonna die, and it's like kind of both going on a similar path of like we know exactly where this ends and where it's leading to. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
And I think all the apostles, to an extent, are on that same path, right? We're seeing that obviously all of the apostles die, if not from old age, then from other things. All of them die from being tortured or executed, right? Except for John that we know of. And so all of them, we're assuming that end is coming. But of course, Judas and Jesus are kind of the first two that come to that point. And then, of course, Jesus resurrects, and Judas obviously hangs himself. And there's a whole story that's going to go along with that. But yeah, super heavy stuff here.
And I get to walk hand in hand with that.
Hey, real quick, if you really want to see us make more content on this channel, the best way to do that is through our Patreon at snipesupport.com. So you can go to that in the link down in the description down below, and you can pledge $5, $10, or $25, and you can cancel at any time. So we would really love to have you over there. We actually post a lot of extra content, including special things that I'm doing during the week. For example, this last week I met with Dallas and I was able to do some other content that's going to be coming out soon. So if you want to learn more about that, go over to our Patreon and you can see all those behind the scenes posts and see what's going on in my life throughout the week, not just during these videos. So anyway, thank you guys so much for your support. You guys are amazing. Let's get back to the video. Next, let's hop over to here because I think it's really interesting to hear them talk about their relationships with each other on and off of set. And so Mitch kind of brings this up here as well.
Fans, Adam Drake here.
Oops, sorry.
No, but it is like a great place to meet, like-minded people. And then you're obviously on set for 12 hours. You're in the, you're in it. You're in the rain. You're in the dust. You're in all this stuff. And so naturally, it's kind of hard not to bond with the people who are, around you. And I think that's so, yeah, it's honestly so cool to hear, like, when I never, obviously for us on the crew end, like, it's hard to get, it kind of gets like a vibe on like what is the actor's experience on this outside of set, you know what I mean? Because obviously, there's the onset, and obviously, especially for us who are ADs, most of our interaction with the cast is being like, no, you have to come here now, or whatever it is. And so, sometimes it's hard to see like, okay, other than the work, like, is this as valuable a time outside of the work for them as it is for us? Because
that's an interesting question. It's something that I don't think we think about very much as fans because we have Mitch, right? And we think of the crew and we think of the cast as the same, as somebody who's from the outside, right? I don't work for The Chosen. I've never been, on set and like hired as part of the show, right? And so for me, it always has felt like I'm on the outside and I look at the cast and crew and they're on the inside, right? But in actuality, it's probably more separate than that, right? Maybe even the AD team versus the PA team versus all these other things, right, are kind of siloed amongst themselves. And so we see as Mitch here is talking about that in terms of the cast and the crew, because they don't have too much interaction with the crew outside of work, right? Outside of just having them on set and being a part of what they're doing. So it is interesting to hear that, even from Mitch, who I feel like, of course, would be super close with everybody. Like from someone looking on the outside, I'd be like, oh, of course Mitch knows all these guys. He's got all their numbers. He's hanging out with all of them all the time. But that is not actually the case, which is really interesting to see from Mitch personally.
Because obviously, when we go to The Chosen, I'd say 50% of what's good about it is the work. The other 50% is, hey, we're going to go see, whatever movie came out this weekend or whatever.
Honestly, I feel like it's pretty similar to the crew because we're also, or at least I am, like, all big friends with the crew. Like Danny and Devin are some of my closest friends. Yeah. And you and I, Mitch, have hung out with them on multiple occasions. I went to see your pilot screening, which was super fun. Like,
yeah, that's right.
Like I know you. I know you, Sam.
That was a blast.
Ben, I can't wait to know you.
Yeah.
He's like, Mitch, you and I are best friends. I love you so much. Sam, you're awesome. Thanks, Adam. You're amazing. Ben? But but I imagine that most of the cast probably doesn't have like super tight relationships. I wonder how much of like this is a job. I'm just here to do my job. A lot of the cast has, you know. I'm sure there's a family aspect to all of it, and they felt like, you know, they're part of this big family and everything. But I wonder how close they actually are to the rest of the crew and what that actually looks like. It'd be interesting to see from some of the other cast members for sure.
But
Hello, my name is Luke, and
but yeah, we're friends. Honestly, I think not only I was very lucky to get that immediately with Josh, but even when he wasn't in the show as much, just
When he's talking about Josh, he's talking about Haddad in the show. They're good friends outside of the show because they were the first two to kind of work together, you know, on set with each other. And so Haddad, the businessman, and Luke were very close. His name is Josh.
the familiarity, being on a project that is multiple years in the running is such it's such an amazing experience to have in my life, because it is. Luckily, it's been a lot of the same people, and that doesn't happen a lot of the times. And we really have become really good friends and family. We all watched Indiana Jones together. We all go out and do stuff. We have barbecues.
That's
we
right.
have dinners. Like it's nice.
Yeah.
It's really nice to know that not only are you good, like you work well together, but these are people that you have come to care about now. Mm-hmm. And honestly, that's just that's something I enjoy greatly. Because even without Josh, I have so many people that I can point to now. I was like, no, these are like extended family members now.
Yeah, I mean, even I feel that way to an extent, right? Like I've been part of the Chosen family for 3.5 years. That's longer than some of the cast, right? And although I'm not on set all the time, although I'm not always there, part of it, right? Digitally, I'm talking about the Chosen every day, right? And so there's a lot of things that the Chosen team and I, you know, have been close on for the last 3.5 years, which is crazy to say that, right? And so every time I see any of them, it feels like family. You know, it feels like we're coming back together again, and it's like, man, I really appreciate your work, and oftentimes that sentiment is passed back to us, you know, doing what we do here. So it's been really cool to see that for sure. Although I'm sure a much deeper extent with all these guys, absolutely.
That I can reach out to whenever.
And that's what I've noticed about you, Luke. Like, especially like for small example, when we were all doing the big cast crew Survivor game. Like there was one point where I looked over at you, and we're all like voting each other out, and we're all like, you know, lying to each other and like just like manipulating each other. And at one point I look over at you, and you're just like as like you were in the boat, just looking straight ahead, so sad.
Yeah, I remember that moment.
And I was like,
that one I don't have a good excuse for. That one I was pretty sad.
I was like, I was like, are you okay, Luke? And you were like, I just don't want this. I don't want this anymore. I'm lying to all my friends.
I betrayed everyone.
Yeah, it was so good.
Huge difference between me and Luke for sure, because I love games where I can just like mess with people's minds and stuff. It's some of my favorite types of games for sure. My friends they always gang up on me on board games now because they're afraid that I'm gonna win or try to manipulate the situation. I would have a blast in a survival challenge like that. It'd be amazing.
Luke, I could tell Luke just felt so horrible lying to us. Right?
I need you to understand.
For the listener, we played our own little cast and crew version of the TV show Survivor, where we just got together one weekend. We made little tribes. We had headbands.
I still have my
Sam
headband.
set the entire thing up. It was honestly very impressive. Oh, awesome. Yeah, it was.
If you guys don't remember, this Survivor game is how we found out that both Jesse and Veronica were going to be in season 4 beforehand. So a long time ago, we had seen them shooting Jesse and Veronica, or Jesse showed up during this Survivor game, basically, in some of the pictures that they took and all that kind of stuff. And so then we put it together that both Jesse and Veronica were actually going to be in season 4 at some point, which was very, very cool to see. Once I got on set later in the season, I was able to verify that, obviously. So it was very, very, very cool stuff. This is the kind of stuff we look at often for our sleuthing, you know, just Instagram posts of them hanging out outside of the set, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that was a cool moment.
Honestly, so impressive. Sam set it up. We played out in the park, and we just did a bunch of games, and then we would eliminate each other, and it got personal, and none of us talked to each other for like a couple weeks after. But it was just such a special thing for us all to do together. Yeah, and Luke made it pretty far. I want to say,
Final 5.
Someone in the chat is asking where they can watch the Survivor game. It wasn't recorded or anything. There's some pictures of it, I'm sure, on Sam's Instagram and stuff like that, but there wasn't any recordings of it, I don't think.
Final 5?
I'm secretly competitive,
right? Yeah.
but I think my spirit can only take so much because I get really stressed with situations like these because I don't have a lot of like physical attributes to me. When it comes to like these kinds of games and stuff, it sometimes hits too close to home, and then I also look at the people around me and I was like, do I want to win? No, I don't want to win, but maybe I do. And so it got to the point where I think the 5th round where I could have gone. I know I could have gone and convinced someone to be on my side and vote somebody else out. I even knew who I was going to convince to get out, but then I was like, who am I becoming? I don't.
Nah, it's not that serious, bro. For me, it's totally just a game. Like, you just play the game and you play to win, you know? And you got to do what you got to do.
I like this anymore.
I am Judas.
I'm
becoming Judas.
Am I a good Judas?
He is inside me.
And so I you know what? Here's the 30 pieces of silver back. I'm gonna go find a tall tree. Peace out, guys. But I'm glad
so
we
good.
won.
We're
I'm glad.
proud of
I'm
you.
glad Danny
We're proud
won. I
of
think
you.
that was the main thing that I took away from it. I was like, as long as Austin got out and
it was
Austin
the right
did get
thing.
out, and then Danny won.
Listen, you say you didn't have the physical prowess, but I saw you in that plank contest.
That
honestly,
surprised me. I didn't
pretty
think
amazing.
I could do that, but then I just
Yeah.
put like
impressive.
mind to matter, and I was like, if I just breathe through this, I could probably get farther than I think I can. And then I went in that.
That's the quote right there. That's like some philosophical
I went
proverb.
full Super
to,
Saiyan. I Kaioken times 10 that, and I just
He's such a nerd, bro.
pushed past my limits.
I love it. I love it.
Senkai boost.
The funny-
That's a reference to Dragon. That's a reference to Dragon Ball Z, Adam. It's
No,
it
he
was
doesn't
a
get
TV
that
show in
one.
the
You don't
90s.
explain that one to him.
You don't get that.
Austin was so funny in that game. Everyone was just it was so funny to just like, we'd just come out of that, week of 600 background every single day. And I think all of us just had so much energy in our bodies, like just from, basically survival moding that entire week, that it all just came out in a super fun way. So I guess.
Yeah, super cool stuff. Anyway, you can check out the rest of that over on the Bros and YouTube channel. I'll leave it linked down below, but these guys are so funny. It's so great to see some more of the cast and crew and what's going on there. I've heard from behind the scenes that they're going to have a lot more of the cast coming on the show, including a possible, one of the female actresses that you love a ton coming up soon. So we'll keep an eye out for it. Of course, we'll cover some of it here on the channel. Go subscribe to their channel. Go check it out if you want to see the full thing over there. Anyway, we'll see you on the next one. Peace. All right.